So this was based on a book, and there's an audiobook of it as well, narrated by Scott Brick, who's a fantastic narrator. Guess who's going to be listening to this soon? Little bit of a diversion, but it does have to do with this movie, The Amateur, which I saw an early access screening of last night with a lot of people. There were several people in the theater, a pretty engaged crowd. There was some laughter because there are a few moments of humor. But let me go ahead and just tell you about the premise. If you've probably already seen the trailers or are familiar with the book that I mentioned, incidentally, there was a movie made of this in the early 80s as well. So this is technically a remake. I had no clue, had not heard of this story at all until I found out about the movie. So the premise is there is this guy that works for the CIA. His name is Heller. I forgot what his first name is, but his last name is Heller, and he's referred by that name a lot. He is like, I can't remember what he actually does with the CIA, kind of like don't know if it has to do with like breaking code or designing systems, certain systems within the CIA, whatever. He's got a desk job and he's very, very smart. And his wife goes away for some sort of work to London, and while she's there, she gets caught up in this terroristic attack and is killed. And so Heller's character decides that he wants to take revenge on the people behind all of this, all the way up to the person that actually physically killed his wife. And there are some intricacies going on in the plot before his wife gets killed, and that ties into how he is able to gain access to the training that he needs in order to accomplish his goal. So that's kind of like something woven in throughout the story, and that it's pretty significant. So you were introduced to this situation that he finds out about pretty early on. So the basic story is it's a revenge story, except with someone who's super brilliant. I also got the feeling that his character was, I don't know if he was like on the spectrum or something, but I got the sense about him that he had trouble interacting with most people around him on a normal level, like how most people do. Like he was socially awkward. You could tell he kind of, he wanted to fit in, but he just kind of couldn't very well. And so when his wife died, of course, it was very difficult for him. But obviously, if he was on the spectrum, I could imagine maybe it was something that was even more challenging for him to deal with. I don't know. I haven't read the book, listened to the book, haven't watched the previous movie, so I do not know. I don't know if this was something that they kind of added into it for this remake, or if it was part of his character all along. Or maybe he was just so super brilliant that that was what made him have a little trouble interacting with people. I don't know. I think also part of it is the way he played his part. He had these very odd facial expressions, and I don't know if that's just because of the way Rami Malek looks himself. He's got very prominent eyes and a very prominent jawbone and just very striking facial features. So they stand out, especially when he is amping them up. So there were a lot of times where he would have these expressions on his face. It was like, wow, that looks a little awkward and strange. But I wonder if that's just the way his character was supposed to be acting. That's part of the reason why I started to wonder about the way his character was. I've seen him in other movies before, and I don't think it's just like this is him. I think it's the way he was playing the character. Okay, whatever. I just brought that up because it was something that stood out to me. I wrote autistic ? In my notes. So I didn't take a ton of notes, honestly. Overall, this movie was pretty enjoyable. I had a few quibbles with it. They weren't anything that were major or anything. If you like spy movies or revenge movies, you might enjoy checking this out. It's a little different in that there's not a ton of action that goes on. There are some moments of action and fighting, physical things that happen, but it's a 2-hour movie and there's a lot that goes on in here, and a lot of it also just involves him interacting with people as he is trying to find everyone responsible, and also him trying to evade certain people that are coming after him, and showing as he's piecing together his plans for what he's going to do to take each person out. He is definitely not someone who is a killer. He is very easy to overcome physically because he's not strong. There is a scene where he is fighting with a female and he is getting his ass kicked because he doesn't know how to fight. He's not a big guy and she's bigger than him. So, it's just, I found that interesting that he had to resort to other means to accomplish what he wanted because he knew his own limitations and he used his strengths to get done what he needed to do. And a lot of times it was interesting when it would reveal what he had done, how he had put everything together. It was like, oh, that's pretty clever. I like that. That was something also that I appreciated about it, the reveal of all these elaborate things that he had come up with. There is a scene where he is having a confrontation with a bad guy. And I found the dialogue of that scene very compelling and very interesting. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not making too many plosives when I talk. I try to put the mic off center so I'm not, blowing air into it, but whatever. So I adjust it every once in a while because I feel like it's just right there. All right, tangent. This conversation that he and the guy were having, I found it very interesting. And it was something that just kind of made me think about the point that was being made. It was an interaction that played out in a way that I guess I wasn't expecting as the movie was going along. I had it built up in my brain the way things were going to be. And when this was happening, I was thinking to myself, is my expectation about what's going to occur going to be subverted or not? I almost want to say, unfortunately, my expectation was not subverted. But at the same time, because there's part of me that would have liked something to happen in a certain way. But I get that wouldn't be necessarily in line with the way this particular character had been depicted the whole time. I'm keeping it vague so that you will just experience it for yourself without going into it knowing exactly what I'm talking about. I want to touch a little bit now on some of what I perceive to be some cons or some weaknesses about this film. It was not enough to drag this down for me, but it was enough that I noticed it. And one of those things was that it seemed like there were some conveniences when it came to his ability to get things done, and some moments where you have to suspend a little bit of your disbelief in order to kind of, go with the scene. And I don't know if this is partly a limitation of the time or the length of this film. I'll give you a brief example. There is a scene where he has sabotaged something, and they don't really show you in depth how he was able to get access to a location in order to do this thing that needed to be done. It just showed him putting something somewhere, and that was it. And I kind of feel like it would have been a little bit more suspenseful or really engaging to see the links that he had to go to in order to put himself in certain places to do these things. But a lot of that was just kind of left out of the picture. And it feels like we could have had a little bit more of that. Having said that, it's possible that this was due to the length of the film. If they showed us every single thing that he encountered or every single complication he ran into as he's trying to set his plan in motion, this movie might have been 2.5, 3 hours long, So I don't know, maybe it's a little nitpicky of me to classify this as a con, but it was something that did stand out to me during this particular scene. So that was one thing. There was also another thing that kind of stood out to me as why there is a person that is pursuing him, and then another person enters the picture. And there's this fight that occurs between these two people, the one that's pursuing him and then this other person that comes along. Now, because Heller, the character of Heller, was being pursued, you would think that when the person that's coming after him has been detained in some way, is otherwise engaged in this fight, that Heller would split as fast as possible to put as much distance as he could between himself and this person that is pursuing him. However, he hangs around and watches the altercation. Number one, I didn't think that was a smart move on his part, but I get that they probably had to show it that way so that we would know what occurred between these two characters, these two other characters. However, it just felt so out of line with his intentions in previous interactions with the person coming after him to just get away as quickly as he could, as far away as he could. So that really stood out to me as a bit clunky. I'm not sure how this scene could be fixed or done differently, since Heller is our eyes, and him watching what was going on tells him, but by extension also tells us what has transpired between these two characters, because it's kind of important to know. So whatever, minor quibbles. Like I said, don't have huge issues with this movie. I did feel like it was worth the watch, and it was interesting enough, enjoyable enough that I wouldn't mind seeing it again. I thought there were some pretty touching scenes when it's showing him grieve the loss of his wife, and there was a moment where he is in such pain, such heartbreak, that he's going through her suitcase. He's looking at the things that, this is all he has left of her. And he just kind of bends over and just embraces the suitcase on the bed, and he just cries. That was pretty touching. I thought that was very effective. And then throughout the movie, he is constantly thinking of her, his last memories of things he saw that happened to her, and good memories of their time before. And I thought that did a good job of conveying the love that he had for this woman and how utterly devastating her loss was for him. And it was that just drove him forward to go after these people. And I thought that was very effectively done. I also liked the part that Lawrence Fishburne played. He's not in here a ton, but he was great to watch, pretty much as he always is. I just especially liked this particular character. I don't think I have much more to say about The Amateur. If you guys have read the book and you see this movie, I'm curious to know the differences between them, but you may watch the movie before I get around to actually listening to the book. So if you know of any of the differences, let me know, especially the differences between, let's say, the movie from the early 80s and this movie. I might see if I can find that sometime and watch it and compare. I saw that Christopher Plummer was in that, so that immediately makes me interested because I like Christopher Plummer. Okay, that's all I have for this. I'll talk with you guys later. Bye.